Hi, this is Shelby French, your guide to Gold Country Living, and I am here at one of my listings in Angels Camp, and this home has solar energy. It's completely run on solar energy, so buyers can come in, and this energy system, I'll tell you, is completely paid off. So buyers of this property will be able to have instant savings on their energy bills. But I thought that I would bring my friend Allie Reynolds, who owns Aurora Energy Company in Angels Camp, to tell us a little bit about how lease transfers happen, because oftentimes I'm showing properties that have existing solar systems and they're lease systems. And one of the first questions you need to ask as a buyer is, what is that lease? What am I on the hook for? How much more is this going to cost me? So I wanted Allie to kind of explain the transition of those leases and also a little bit about the cost, because sometimes that can be a turnoff because they see it as they're absorbing a debt, but what's important is to talk about the actual savings that they're going to get versus the debt.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here. Thanks, Shelby, for having me. So first of all, there's kind of two ways to have solar in California nowadays. There is what's called a power purchase agreement, where you have a solar system on the roof of your house, but you have agreed to purchase the power back from the solar company at a lower rate than what you would pay for the utility. So you have a solar system, but you don't own it. You're essentially paying usually between 19 and 25 cents per kilowatt hour. Whereas with the utility, you're paying between 24 and 41 cents per kilowatt hour. So you're paying a much reduced rate, and it only goes up about 2% a year. So it's a very, very low increase, and that's in a contract for 25 years. So that's a great option if you don't want to own a power system on your home. And then the other option is owning your own system, where you have the solar system on the house, and instead of paying a utility every month, you're actually paying the solar company for the system. Now you can actually buy the system outright. So let's say it costs $24,000. You can just pay that, then you never have a payment again, and you have free solar for the rest of your life. So let's talk about the two scenarios for a buyer and a seller. What does that look like? If you're buying a house and it has a power purchase solar system, which means it's under a lease agreement, and you want to have the benefit of solar, but you're not sure how this transfer is going to work. Well, what's really great about these power purchases now is that there's a few times in the agreement where it can be transferred or purchased outright. So at the 5-year mark, once the original owner has gotten to 5 years, they can just buy it outright and then they own it. They can finance it, do it however they want, but then there's no monthly payment after that. The other time they can do it is when the house sells. So they can actually either prepay the cost of that system getting paid off and include the cost in the cost of the home, or they can transfer that agreement to the new buyer. And what you usually do in a situation like that is you work with a transfer agent who does this all the time. They essentially just transfer the loan agreement to the new owner, and then that person takes over the monthly payment. So it's very straightforward. It's kind of like buying a car that still has a payment on it. You're just transferring that over to a new title, essentially.
And the buyers, they don't have to absorb any cost other than the monthly payment. There's no like transition fee that
Nothing like that.
Yeah.
Nope, there's no out-of-pocket cost to deal with that.
Yeah.
So then the second scenario is a house that already has solar on it, like this one, that's already been paid for. And what can the buyer expect to experience? Well, first of all, the house is going to be a slightly higher cost because the value is higher, because the asset is worth more. And the reason that the asset is worth more is because there's no monthly utility cost, and that can save between $200 to $700 a month in this area, depending on how you use your power and how many people are living in the residence and how large it is. So that's a very comprehensive cost savings. So purchasing a house with solar on it that's already paid off is definitely worth it, because you won't have to deal with going through the system of getting it installed, doing all the research, having a million salespeople call you, etc. And you could just get the system in place, already running, walk in with no utility agreement that you have to pay ever again.
Well, and I know I just read on Zillow too, they were saying that according to Zillow, the average home with solar, a paid for solar system sells for 4.2% higher, which I think was about $9,000 more. So it's definitely in the marketplace, people see it as a value, an added value to a home for sure.
And so the big question people ask me when they're thinking about doing solar is, and I ask a lot of these questions back, is how long are you planning to stay in the house? Because you want to make sure that you get enough value off of that initial investment, if you're doing a lease especially, that when you sell the house and transfer that, you're not just going to be kind of missing out on that money that you invested in having that lower cost. Same with purchasing a system. You kind of want to have an idea of what your plan is for staying in that property, how long you want to be there, and then you can be more easily directed by whatever solar professional you're working with, hopefully me, to help you determine the best system size, cost, offset, etc. for your needs for now and for the long-term plan. Now, if you already have a home and your system is still being paid off and you're thinking of selling, you can either pay off your system in advance and then include that cost in the overall cost of the home, or you can make an agreement with the new potential buyer to have them pay you for it as part of closing costs or something. You know, there's all sorts of creative ways. A lot of people I've worked with have taken out home equity loans to do improvements on a property before they fix or sell it, just to raise the value. That's one great way you can use it as well. But you know, if you're thinking of getting solar, you want to maybe be planning to stay in your home for 5 years or longer and kind of get that value from it and then move along. Obviously, we can't all plan all the time for everything that happens, and you're not going to really be losing out because you're going to have immediate savings from your utility costs being lower anyway. But it's just a good to have a big picture view of your plans before you decide to invest in one or the other type of system. But as a buyer walking into a home that already has an installed solar system, it's a really great thing to have because it's going to save you money immediately and make your life a lot easier, not having to deal with costs that are continuously going up.
And they will, right?
Absolutely. PG&E has already had one 12% rate increase approved for 2020. They have 2 more scheduled for 2020, which will increase the average cost by 24%.
Wow.
And the people who are in the lowest tier who use the least energy are the ones who are going to be the most affected because their rates are going to increase the most. And so it's actually very unfair for people that are really good at conserving energy or live alone, because they're going to be affected the most. So a lot of people are starting to research more because they want to reduce their costs, or at least have a fixed cost that doesn't continue to go up with no control every year. So we're just here to try to educate and help people with that, just like you are.
Well, thank you so much. That actually was really informative.
Great.
And you know, another reason why in some of my other videos I talk about the importance of kind of, if you're thinking of listing your home, meet with your local real estate agent as early as you really can, because these are all questions that we want to talk you through as far as improvements, investments on getting your house ready and getting it marketable, and kind of looking at what your threshold might be there for listing a home and whether or not it makes sense to put that money towards paying off your system. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you, Shelby.
Bye.
Happy house hunting, guys.